Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. I'm going to start from a place of what feels the most empowering and prioritizing me, and how that changes our actions and our decisions and our accountability, right? We talked about the law of opposites, universal law. There cannot be light without dark. It's not possible. There cannot be left without right. Not possible, right? And in the same way, there cannot be a problem without a solution. Universal law, okay? We talked yesterday about the law of rhythms and our cyclic dynamic nature. And I kind of really dug into the ways in which our libido, our leadership, and our relationships can be impacted by where we are in any lunar cycle, in any infradian rhythm. So we know our circadian rhythm in a 24-hour period. Our infradian rhythm is in that 28-day cycle, knowing that not all women are cycling, not all women are bleeding, not all women are on a 28-day bleeding cycle. And we all have 4 seasons within each of those rhythms. We talked about feminine energy and where can we spend a little bit more time in that pull space so that our energy becomes magnetic, and it's not just what people hear us say, but how we make them feel. And we all know what that feels like to be in the presence of a woman who really owns it. And we all know it has nothing to do with what she looks like, her shape, her size, her height, her color. It's an energetic thing. We feel it. We feel her power. And I think often that comes from women that really honor their rhythms and spend time in both push and pull. But I think most of us can really benefit from spending a little bit more time in that pull energy. And we talked a little bit about thinking versus feeling and reminding ourselves to feel. I wanted to start out getting right into the workbook for day 3, this kind of like way of thinking when we think about our abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. Okay, these were the notes from yesterday. Hopefully you all gleaned something when we talk about thyroid hormones and sex hormones and our adrenal hormones, and then that dopamine, serotonin, melatonin piece. I talked a little bit about vitamin D, and I didn't end up touching on insulin. We spent so much time on the rhythms. Hopefully you really enjoyed that, and it was helpful for you. So something I want you to think about in general: through what lens do you choose to see your world? And if we just go, we have abundance and we have scarcity. Okay. So, and you're welcome to add to this as I'm kind of riffing and brainstorming. If something comes to you, add to it. So, someone who's in abundance thinking, invests to earn, but specifically sees it as an investment in self. So generally, when I'm speaking to someone who's in abundance thinking, they bet on themselves. And they know that when I make an investment in me, it always pays off. So when we think about ROI, of course, it's a phenomenal investment. If I'm going to choose between buying a fancy purse, for me personally, buying a fancy purse versus buying a coaching program that is going to grow in who I am, both of those for you, it might be in abundance thinking, but I bet on myself. I know that when I invest to learn, that I'm investing in myself. Whereas someone in scarcity thinking is often focused on, oh, I just want to avoid debt. I'm going to penny pinch. I had a conversation with someone yesterday. She's done a beautiful job. She has a tremendous amount of money and sitting in a savings account. And this like fear of, well, what if I spend it? Right. So this, like, not only I can't take on debt, but I have to hold on to what I have. This person will move forward in faith, trust in self, no failure. They know that it's either, there is no win or lose. It's always learning. So someone who's spending their time in abundance mindset, they know there's no failure. I get to make mistakes. It's not even a mistake. Things get to go in different directions, and I'm always learning. And I'm always grateful that law of opposites is showing up. And here I am being seen some contrast that I'm learning from, right? Whereas scarcity, this is kind of judgmental, but the way that I see it is wasting time for perceived lower cost. So I'm going to spend extra time on whatever this thing is because it's lower cost. I don't have to spend as much money, but I know I'm going to be spending more of my time. And I go, girl, your time, like money comes and goes, things come and go, even people come and go. Time, Like, where can we save our time? Often someone in scarcity thinking wants more added. Can you add on that extra thing so I feel like I'm making the most of my money, right? Often someone in abundance thinking if it's lower cost or cheap, they'll think what's wrong with it. Versus scarcity thinking they decide based on where they are versus what have we covered a lot in this workshop, where they desire to be. So once again, if we make decisions based on where we are, we end up where we are. If on the other hand, someone in abundance thinking makes a decision or an investment or approaches a scenario based on where they're going to be, knowing with absolute belief and faith that it is inevitable, they just haven't created it in this physical form yet. Right? Do you see the difference? Okay. I think it's really powerful for us to look at how do I think? How do I approach my life? How do I approach how I invest time, money? Okay. And I know Anna's got only a short amount of time. So Anna, let me find you. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you
with
too.
My big old microphone. Like, how do I find a way to hide it? Okay. First, would you just introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah. My name is Anna Rains, and I am the CEO and founder of Simplified Impact, multiple seven-figure marketing agency.
Mm-hmm. And an amazing woman and a mom and a wife and a friend, and someone that I love dearly.
Oh, same.
Can you remember, so you're in your second year with the Women's Vibrancy Code, and we've been working together for a while. Way, way, way back when you first said, I'm hungry to feel different. Can you remember what it is? What was showing up for you? What wasn't working?
Yeah, it was definitely like my skin. I was feeling really, really sluggish, like very tired. So that was the first thing. And I had, we were both at an event and, started chatting and like, I don't know why, but I just started telling you like, all of the things for some reason.
I think right away I was asking you about your bowel movements. And you're like,
yeah, it was just
hi,
strange.
Nice to meet you. I'm talking to a stranger about my poop.
Yeah.
Right. And your skin. And, because what was happening for you in your skin underneath the cause was really hormonal.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What about your relationship? Anything else that felt like, I wish this felt slightly different?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, we've gotten like closer and it's been way better, like in our marriage. So I think that to me has been a huge change and just like amazing for sure.
Yeah. And so it wasn't necessarily something that coming into working with me, you were like, this is something
Mhm.
I want. For you, it was, is something going on with my hormones? I don't like what's showing up in my skin, and I feel
Mhm.
tired all the time.
Yeah.
And do
Yeah.
you remember at that point, what had you tried?
What did I try? Oh yeah, I used like some topical like tretinoid, just like topical things, right, for
Mm-hmm.
my melasma. And then as far as relationship, we had definitely been to, like therapy when Sully was born. So, but I hated therapy. I always felt like we always ended up with therapists who had like boys, like 4 boys. I was like, WTF. I didn't feel seen. And it wasn't that, I can't, I think instead of sitting there and being like, well, he did this, and he's like, well, she did that. It was like, I learned to appreciate, to like relish in like little things of pleasure, right? Where we learn to appreciate each other. And interesting enough, if I would have stayed in the same trajectory or mindset that I was at that time and how our lives have changed in the last few years, I think I would have been really unhappy in my marriage, and not seen it like a me thing, but like a him thing. And I think appreciating him so much and loving him for who he is and what he contributes, makes me, it just, we have a very, very strong relationship.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So, and honestly, that absolutely hands down happened at your retreat. I think that was the biggest change. Yeah. I remember like emotionally feeling like, holy crap, like, I have been pointing at him, but I should have been pointing at me and trying to make me better. And how do I do that in the relationship? And what we did in that retreat and the things you walked us through and the support has 100% changed everything.
Mm-hmm. I feel that in my body. So you were in the year-long Women's Vibrancy Code. You also came to the in-person retreat, and
Yeah.
there have been some kind of unexpected changes where you thought, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to figure out my hormones so that my melasma can be better and I can feel confident out in the world. I mean, I didn't even ask you in what ways was the melasma impacting your confidence, how you were in the world? Like, did you spin and wonder what's going on? I mean, how much of a problem was it?
I mean, I don't think I would say it was like a huge problem. I think I was like, oh, I want to get rid of it. I think, I don't like it, and it wasn't a huge problem. Here's the thing. Here's a funny thing. Okay. So today I was actually thinking like, cause just through working with you and different things that like you've recommended, I got my period this morning and I didn't have any cramps. And that's the first time that's happened. And I was like, oh, so it's almost like those things, right? Or I used to get really bad stomach aches, like almost like all of a sudden, like, I don't know, from like dairy, but I didn't know it was from dairy. So like all these things that I thought were normal, I'm like, oh, that's just normal. I got stomach aches. Oh, that's just normal. I feel bloated. Oh, that's just normal. I have my period. Of course I get cramps and I feel like crap, So I think that's been the biggest change. Like the normal has become like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way. Like that's actually not normal, but like there's no not normal conversation. All conversations like it's normal.
Yeah. We talk about all of it. And so what I'm hearing is you initially enrolled in a year-long program, not with any like big, my life is ending, this is horrible, I can't handle this anymore, simply because you wanted to grow and you wanted to change. And I remember you love nutrition, you love learning. And then along the process, the skin is better. Yes. The sluggishness and the tiredness, better, not better? Has it changed?
Way better. Like I sleep 8 hours, like almost every night. Last night I actually didn't, but like 99.
That's because you and I were on the phone until 11.
I know. But 99% of the time I do. And just, absolutely. Just like all of it, it's better.
And also just to acknowledge that, yes, so she runs Simplified Impact, which is a marketing agency. She's in her second year with me. And I also have hired Simplified Impact to do my marketing. So because her team is going to be potentially editing this, she's like, oh, can I be totally forthcoming? And so just to honor that there's this.
Yeah, no, I have been. I think I mean, it's
Okay.
fine.
And so then along the journey, there was this, wow, I didn't realize that my relationship really needed some support in ways that I hadn't quite acknowledged. And I can look back and go, I was pointing my finger at him, thinking that it was because of him. And there was this moment at the women's retreat where you went, oh, I see it. And things really shifted. And the other thing that I'm hearing is, had you known 3 years ago all the ways in which the business was going to grow to the degree it's grown, and the ways in which that changes your lives, to have that type of growth and life change when the marriage is on unsteady ground, even if you're not quite realizing or acknowledging as it's on steady ground, is tough. But now what I'm hearing is my marriage feels solid. And I'm taking personal responsibility in pointing my own finger at myself and saying, how can I be different? And so then as life has changed and Soleil has grown and the business has grown, the marriage has stayed stable along with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then I heard you say no menstrual cramps. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, that estrogen dominance that we've been working with. I bet when we redo your Dutch test, it's going to look better, which makes me feel so excited. And no more stomach aches.
No, not really. No.
But you had just accepted that was just your normal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to get bad. I mean, not like when I was working corporate, I remember like sometimes I would be like literally in the bathroom, like crying. And I was, it was just like, oh, it's normal. Like, I don't know. You have gas, I don't know, whatever gastritis, whatever gassiness, blah, blah. But
it's funny. I was the same in my early 20s. I just always had a stomach ache. And it, was finally figuring out what it was from a nutritional standpoint for me personally. How do you make decisions to invest in yourself? So to make a leap into a year-long program that is a significant investment of money, time, energy, especially in your scenario when there wasn't this like big pain point where you felt like you were going down a toilet bowl. What mindset do you go into? How do you make those kind of big, bold decisions to invest in yourself?
I think it's a lot of trust. I think I just felt something with you, just like energetically, I was like, it just felt right and aligned. It's important to me. Like, I know that health is really important. I think health is wealth, honestly. I've been telling you, we just had a family member pass away, and her daughter long story short, she just was awarded $300 million.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they're already very, very wealthy. And their mom, barely in her 60s, just passed away. And there was nothing they could do to save her, right? They were paying $38,000 a month in cancer medicine, and that didn't save her. So to me, like, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to live a long life.
Yeah. That gives me chills. And so what does living a long life look like for you right now? In what ways, from what you've gleaned from being in this program for now your second year, what are some things that you've decided to take on that you feel like are adding to your longevity?
Strength training, I think, is one of them. I mean, I know it's one of them. And that to me equals like a long life, proper food, understanding foods. It's funny. We had a family friend come over, and he was like, do you know what they put in pasta? And what am I going to like sit there and be like, school, like all my friends. So I was like, no, tell me. He's like, Roundup. And like, he's going on. He's like, we got to cut back on the wheat. I'm like, we don't even eat wheat, things like that. Right. Like just really being educated on all the food, all the things, what to eat, when, why, just sugar levels, like understanding your gut health, understanding your hormones, how that impacts things, why you shouldn't drink coffee. And if you do, like, what does that mean? And like, how you can replace it. Like I never thought I could replace coffee, and like Dandy Blend, like amazing. Now I have it iced. It tastes better than iced coffee. Like there's just so many things, right? Like the different adaptogens, elixirs, and like all these things that like I thought I knew just because I do have such a health conscious family that I grew up in. I grew up in that kind of environment, and I've learned so much more about protecting and taking care of my body from a longevity standpoint, right? Rather than just like from a fitness standpoint, but it all like goes together.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing changes in your relationship and how you view yourself in the context of the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Changes in how you move your body and understanding the value of moving your body in certain ways, specifically strength training for where you are in your current chapter of life and doing it at certain times of the menstrual cycle. Changes in food, taking out coffee, no longer having cramps, no longer having stomach aches. Anything else feels like has changed?
No, I mean, I just feel like happy and bright, and like another thing is like when I get up in the morning, I usually would like I always like have a little bit of a routine, but then when I would come downstairs and it was like family time, but now what I do is like I make sure I get out and like get some sunlight, and like I do that with Soleil with my daughter. So like even like little things like that, I don't know, just like I was even saying to one of our senior project manager, I was like, don't things feel like just like, I don't know, like more, we still have things that come up, but it just feels like chill.
Yeah. Chill. I think of stable, like just able to just roll with it. It just rolls off a little bit better. And what about hope for the future? Since specifically your time, this is, a year and a half now. All of the changes in relationship, changes in how you view, I mean, you've always viewed food as medicine. You already grew up in a really health conscious family, but all the things that you've learned and the changes that you've made, even I look at how you are choosing to mother differently too. I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of changes. What new hope does that create for you for the future?
More surprises, and then like more of the same, more of like understanding my health, understanding that, probably in September-ish, right? I think it'll be a 6-month mark. We'll do the Dutch test again. And like, we're going to do some blood work and just being able to, I like data. So like that to me is like working with you means like, I get to treat my body as data and like data points and being able to be like, okay, how do we address this? And like, what are we doing? And that to me is really important.
It's not just thought forms and obscure. We're actually looking at your specific, it's me and the team. Looking at your specific data so that we have tangible things to go on. I just was talking to a woman, she was like suggested some big gut cleanse. And I was like, well, what's included? They had put her on so many supplements. I'm going, oh my goodness, you can't just load your body with all these probiotics without knowing what's going on in your gut microbiome. If you have one bacteria that's quote unquote good, but it's already in an unbalanced way too high, and now you're adding in a bunch more. Like to stop going and approaching our healthcare blindly. To go, let's do this with some tangible data. And I'm assuming, so I'm hearing you invest in yourself, you move forward in faith, knowing that you're going to apply it. You're learning along the journey. And I just was thinking about what I was covering earlier regarding kind of abundance thinking versus scarcity thinking. You make decisions based on where you want to be.
Yeah, where I'm going, right? Like, what does it look like to be XYZ person? And then, how do I like embody that? One of the things that I found most powerful about what you do, and this wasn't my personal experience, but I could share a little bit about it because it was one of my family members who also works with you. She came to you really, really sick, and it had been a 2-year journey of this illness. And when you looked at her labs, and she'd been to so many doctors and specialists and endocrinologists and blah, 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 you said something happened 2 years ago. And she was like, yeah, it did. And you're like, okay, a firestorm happened also within your body. And then you were able to trace back from the blood work, like, okay, so this happened 2 years ago. And this is all just tests, it's all data points. And I love data. So I was like, oh my God, it's like obsessed with this call because I happen to be a part of it. And then after that, you were like, okay. And then because you had all the tests from the 2 years and the trajectory of what had happened, you asked her to accumulate that. And you said to her, okay, at this point, you still hadn't been treated. So then it turned into autoimmune. And then at this point, you still hadn't treated it. And then it turned into hyperthyroid, and when she got really scared was when her only option was going to be to have her thyroid removed. Mm-hmm. Right. And I was like, you have to talk to Maraya. And within 2 weeks of you working with her, she already started to feel so much better. It's going to be a long journey because it was a 2-year shit show. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, that was like, because she did come to you with that, and I didn't have that experience where I was just like, blah, da, da, I'll show up, whatever. Yep. Some spots on my face, who cares?
Yeah.
And literally, I think my whole entire family will be working with you at some point.
Anna's slowly sending me a number of her family members that I'm working with. And yes, it was based on data in our labs. It was also based on what I know about energetics. And it was also me listening into my intuition. And there was I'm not going to, this isn't her, I'm not going to share her story, but there were a lot of factors at play. Mm-hmm. Yes, the labs could tell me the story quantifiably, but I also listen to my inner knowing, and that's what we talked about yesterday. Is for us to listen into our intuition. And there were some other pieces around familial stuff, and the storm was specifically around her voice, and the reason I bring that up is that I know that that's associated with thyroid, and so thank you for trusting me with your family.
Oh,
mm-hmm. I love you. All right, I know you've got to go. Okay, let's start with Krista, since we asked Krista first. Where did she go? There. Hi, lovely.
Hello. Good morning.
Good to see you. Okay, so you're now on year 3.
Just about to start.
So we're going way, 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 way back.
Yeah.
Let's go back to reality. What was happening with you when we first started working together?
A lot.
And you look beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I was having, so I had been sick for the better part of my adult life. So it had been a very, very long, a long period of my life where I had been termed sick or whatever with no really diagnosis. But right when I was listening to one of these webinars or workshops, I was in a place where I was really, really bloated. I was really uncomfortable through my abdominal, lots of just chronic pain. I didn't feel like my body was mine. Like there was a dissociation between what I saw from the bloating and the extra weight and stuff to what I interpreted as me. Like I didn't feel like I was in my body. Those were like the really big ones.
Mm-hmm. And you were on meds that you didn't want to be on.
Yeah.
You had been told that you would be on them for the rest of your life.
Until I wanted to get pregnant. And then I would just have to get off and hope that it instantly happened. And then the plan was to to have a hysterectomy as soon as I was done with kids. That was already a conversation.
Yeah. And when she says there were some pretty intense health stuff, there was some pretty intense health stuff that had been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
What's changed?
Oh, everything. Like from the diet stuff. So I jumped in full feet. I dove in when I signed up with Maraya. And so I went off of cow dairy, gluten, alcohol. That wasn't hard for me though, because it made me so sick anyways. Caffeine, or severely limiting caffeine. those are the big ones. And so I did like within probably the first month, I had started to really see the reduction in the bloating, the abdominal pain. I think I've lost about 25-ish pounds, which was never like, weight wasn't necessarily my goal, but the bloating and like looking like you're pregnant when you're not was definitely an issue for your self-confidence and things.
Yep.
And then speaking of confidence and just the support network and learning more about myself and exploring different modalities and energy work and all sorts of different things that you introduce into the space. And yeah, happier, more confident, more energy.
Yeah.
Like there's still days, right? Like, but overall, it's just profound.
And so you made some diet modifications. And for those listening, if you're like, what? No gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no alcohol, too much, abort. If that's your reaction, then that's not going to be our plan. Okay. Yeah. I think too often we end up feeling like we have to change everything and like the walls are caving in, right? And so that's why I say it gets to be personalized and it gets to be feminine. In Krista's scenario, she was ready.
Yeah.
She was like, hungry.
We're going to solve this. And I don't even care which piece of the pie at this point. I'm like, I don't even care to know which one was the most effective because it was work. So I'm keeping it.
I just want to feel better.
Right.
So, lost 25 pounds, but that was a lot of bloating. I mean, your body composition has changed and just how you carry your body. For those of you that have known Krista kind of like before and after, and I'm not a big fan of before and after because the before does not mean you are less than. You are an absolute spectacular being right now. And if you lose the 25 pounds or you're no longer tired or you build the confidence, it does not mean that you are more than or better than, right? It's just a different version, a different expression. Yeah. And for Krista, her body changed, her confidence changed. You didn't mention it, but off all meds.
Yeah.
Off all meds.
So that's to give people an idea. That happened, I guess, a year and a half ago. I got off all. And that was the first time I've been off all prescription medication since I was 18. Yeah. So like when I say I had a prolong, like it was a long time.
And what's your age now?
34.
Yeah. And no longer in pain?
Yeah. Chronic pain is managed. Having a menstrual cycle again after I think the medication, the progestin I was on, had suppressed that for probably about 7 or 8 years. So having menstrual cycles again, managing the pain, typically without even an Advil, like typically just with like motherwort or taking it easy. Yeah, so it's insane. It's insane.
At the beginning, you said my body wasn't mine and there was some dissociation. What's changed there?
Well, I feel like I'm me again, right? Like it's the body shape that I've grown up with and I associate as being mine. Whereas when I was just so uncomfortable and you couldn't touch, like I couldn't even touch my stomach, couldn't wear pants some days because it hurt so bad. Like that didn't feel like it was me.
And then Krista, you came to the March retreat, and there was a moment at the March retreat. I don't want to say it because it's your story to share, but there was a moment where we were in circle where I think this, like my body's not mine in dissociation pattern, where you had a realization that that's shifted. Would you be open to sharing that?
I had a pretty good download and kind of realization during the breath work and the sound bath on day one, which was like a fabulous way for me to start the retreat and to be so open-minded to exploring a new area that I'm really diving into now. And then also with that, and I don't even know if I've really mentioned this to you yet, Maraya, because it's a fairly new realization for me, but during like the breathwork sessions that we've done through the group or through that sound bath, or I have had like full body tremors and things, which I used to always associate with my episodes of paralysis and muscle weakness and all the things that I was dealing with for most of my adult life, which were all negative. Whereas now I'm able to experience them and know that it's a release of energy or trauma or whatever, and to experience it in a healing way. And to now start thinking about what was my body trying to tell me that I just was not able to comprehend, or it wasn't even in the same language, or right.
So to be able to see it as evidence and communication and learning.
Yeah. Well, and in a positive light, not in this super negative, it's wrong or it's bad or it's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so now you're exploring, I mean, I didn't have you introduce yourself. So what do you do in the world?
We just jumped right in.
Yeah.
I'm Krista. I'm from Northern British Columbia, Canada. And then I work for a small local government doing community and economic development.
Mm-hmm. So when I think about community and economic development, it's a very organized, very linear kind of mathematic in many ways. And so for Krista, along this journey to be exposed to intuition and energy and relationship with other people and being in the Women's Vibrancy Code, now starting year 3 plus 2 retreats, it is just like, there's no way we could put into words all the ways in which you've transformed. And I'm aware of time. Anything else that you would say about how your life has changed?
I think I'm just open to so much more, and I'm seeing the world and in a different way almost. So through a bit of a different lens. So things that used to stress me out a whole bunch are kind of just, okay, that's not actually about me. I can recognize stuff like that now. Yeah. So like from the physical to the mental health to the community, the support system, right? Like I'm seeing all these beautiful women on the screen as well as through the chat, and they just fill my heart. So,
and we didn't even touch on sexual health. That's where I was, the big smile was coming. I was like, is she going to say it?
That didn't even occur to me. No.
Yes. Yeah. There's also been a revival there, which we don't have to get into right now, but, to be able to see the world through a different lens. And I feel like I heard something similar when Anna shared. There's this new kind of grounded, stable way of being.
Yeah.
To just be in a powerful place of here's who I am. And, you've had access to me and the dietitian and the mindset coach and the sexologist and trauma release and all of the guest experts that I'm bringing into the Women's Vibrancy Code each month, plus the retreats. Can you just say briefly what have been some of your favorite aspects?
I love how you're like, can you say briefly? And but I just listed off like 20 different
testimonials.
Things.
I'm like, how do we fit it in?
It's all been great, and there's certain ones that you take more from depending on your situation and where your focus is. Like the breathwork sessions have been profound for me from a healing perspective. A lot of the workshops and the conversations with Eva, just because I didn't grow up in a space where you could talk about sex or desires or, so even just the basics of talking about things in a non-judgmental and space is pretty huge.
And for those of you that don't know, Eva is the team sexologist. She's also a psychotherapist. She taught neuroscience at UCLA and USC. And she does amazing work. Yep. Yeah. And you've really taken advantage of all of it. And as the time has progressed, I see you going, I'll take that, but I don't necessarily need to take everything. I don't have to attend everything. And for me, that's also me seeing your abundance thinking expanding. It's like we don't. So if we're in this place of, in order to get value, I have to do it all. For me, that's kind of a foundational scarcity thinking way to approach it, versus being able to say, I have exactly what I need, and I'm going to pick and choose, and I'm going to attend that because I know that I'm ready for it and I'm hungry, and that is exactly what is going to benefit me right now, this week, this day. And I see you really approaching it from a powerful place.
Yeah. And it's just been a shift over time on what the priorities have been for me. And I think that's going to be different for everyone, right? Like when I started, it was getting that diet and that bloating under control. And then once we got that under control, it was like, okay, now we're going to get off these hormones and get that under control. And so now that those are kind of stable blocks, now I'm working on other things, right? And so, yeah, I think it's going to vary for every person, but it's nice to be able to do it in your way and see those changes and adapt and focus on different things as needed.
Any last parting words for the women that are listening?
Just feel the love. I know that I felt it just listening to people and listening to Maraya's, and you're here and you're heard and you're seen, and that's a huge part in being human, and a huge first step in taking you on. So,
And Nicole says, thank you so much for sharing, Krista. You're such a beautiful person inside and out. There is a lot of love. The community that is built amongst these women, for those that come to the retreat or those that enroll in the year-long Women's Vibrancy Code, it really is spectacular. And by no means, when I say you apply for a call and we get to co-create something, it might not be that the year-long program is what's going to be the best fit for you. We get to co-create something that feels personalized. And like I said, I have myself as well as a team of master coaches and a lot of different possibilities in regard to how we can work together and order labs and offer you support. And so thank you, Krista. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
I love you very much.
Love you too.
All right, Wanda. Hi.
Hi.
Would you be open to introducing yourself quickly?
Oh, absolutely. Wanda Watson. I am in Chesapeake, Virginia. I am a tax strategist and I work with elite entrepreneurs, helping them to minimize their tax liability and increase their profits.
And you've now just renewed for your third time.
Yes.
And so give me an idea, what made you decide to say yes to receiving support from me and my team?
Initially?
Yeah.
Or the third time?
Initially.
Wow. I decided to save myself. That's plain and simple. I decided to rescue myself. Most of my life has been around making sure I cater to everyone else. And I was neglecting me, right? Yeah. And I've shared before that you just kind of blew me away. First of all, just our call, our initial call. And I felt your caring spirit, I knew it wasn't just a sales call. It was, you need this help, let me help you. And then I told you later that you had asked me about if I had thyroid issues. And you didn't know that I had just gone through, all this testing, and they were actually going to schedule surgery to remove my thyroid. And just the fact that, you knew that. And then I asked you why, and you said, well, because your eyebrows are thinning. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? So that really, that really caught me.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And so you said, what I'm hearing is, it's time for me to save me and rescue myself. And I have been spending my time saving everyone else and rescuing everyone else. And so when you made that leap and that commitment to yourself, what changed?
I learned a lot about the body. I learned about me and the whys from the, the GI map and the Dutch testing, and really just to see the testing and and my levels and how it indicated that, you know, I was up one moment, and then even the time of day when I would be, you know, get tired and dragging, and how it would go back up. I was really fascinated. Like, they really know all that, you know, but now it's like, okay, I'm more aware and I understand, and then I can zone in on the why. So what did I do differently if I'm feeling like this and what have you? And, you know, paying more attention to my diet has been, you know, really, really helpful. And then my coffee. I always joked and said my car was on autopilot in the morning. When I drove out my driveway, my car went straight to Starbucks. And
It drives itself.
Yes. And, you know, now I'm, you know, drinking the Dandy Blend and using the adaptogen elixirs, and, you know, even dabble with the mushroom coffee just to, you know, and the mushroom mixed with the adaptogen is really good. So, but yeah, it's a lot. I'm more aware of the things that I need to do for me, the boundaries that I need to set, and the changes that I need to make.
And what aspects of support do you feel like have been the most helpful for you in all the things that you've had access to?
I mean, it's been phenomenal. You know, I actually jumped on a call with Katie just a couple of days ago, and she's like, "Oh, good to see you." And we just picked up where we left off, you know.
And for those of you that don't know, Katie is the team. She's a functional dietitian, and she specializes in gut health.
Yeah. And, you know, she was like, "It's time for us to order another GI map." And I was like, "Yep, Maraya's on that." You know, that, and, you know, Krista helping me work through my stuff, you know, and really understanding the whys, you know, that's been helpful. And honestly, Maraya, you and Michael just being there for me in the midst of my mom stuff has really been very, very helpful, which is why I jumped on late, because Michael was like, throw it back to them, you know, give it back to the professionals, let them tell you what they're going to do. And so then I scheduled the call. I scheduled the meeting, and so they immediately scheduled the time for me to come in. So I just left that. So I kind of laughed. I was like, well, I wore this morning, I took that off, put on my caregiver hat. Now I'm taking that off, and I'm getting ready to jump on the call with Maraya. But I really appreciate you all's support.
So the big things that I'm hearing is this consistent, and it, you know, we need reminders, we need accountability. It's not like poof, it changes and voila, I'm a changed woman forever. But this consistent pattern of, I get to save myself, I get to rescue myself. And I've heard you say a number of times, understanding the whys. So not just what should I do based on this data and these tests, and having the support of trauma release from Krista and another professional to read the test. But I'm hearing from you that it really has gone a long way to understand why. Why are they suggesting these things that I change? Why has this pattern been showing up in my life over and over again as I wash, rinse, repeat, and go back to, right, I get to save myself. Right, I get to rescue myself, and I get to invest in myself.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, I went through the situation not too long ago with the pains in my legs that were waking me up in the middle of the night, even took me to the emergency room. And, you know, they went through the testing and everything else. And I'm really not one for the doctor. So if I went, you know, I was really in pain. And then they got to the bottom of it with the reverse. I don't even know what they called it. But, you know, reaching out to you and the pointers that you gave me and the supplement that you told me to get, I mean, within a week's time, I felt so much better, you know, and then they called me for a follow-up. I was like, yeah, I don't need that. I have Maraya.
I have Maraya. Yeah. And so for those of you that are listening, depending on which package we co-create, there's access to group calls and community. There's access to a team of professionals, testing, one-on-one time. There's office hour hot seats where you can hop on at any point. There's Q&A sessions throughout the month. I mean, there are so many ways to feel held and embraced based on your specific schedule and your specific time zone. I mean, in this one, we've got women in Europe, we've got women in Australia. Yes, we've got you. It might not be that the 10 a.m. call Pacific Standard Time is going to work for you, but the 5 p.m. might. If you want community, and if you're not served by community, it's all good. There's lots of different options. Anything else that you'd like to add regarding what's changed and kind of just who you are now compared to who you were before we were working together?
Yeah, I'm a different me.
Mm-hmm.
My family's like, hey, when I say no now, no is a complete sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just more in tune with my body and what I need. And even the aspects of understanding when certain parts of your body is, aching or whatever, exactly what that means and how to really get in tune.
Yeah.
That's been just very helpful. And like I said, the boundary setting and just rescuing Wanda. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you were a woman who had invested heavily for a good decade in business coaching.
Yeah.
And it was new for you to say, I'm actually going to invest in me and my who I be and my foundational health in a way that is very new and different.
Yeah. That was definitely new. But you know what, Maraya? I realized that was the missing piece. So you can spend as much as you want to, invest as much as you want to in your business. But if you don't invest in yourself, it's the missing link, right?
Yeah.
Because how you feel will affect how you actually show up in your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that. How you feel will affect how you show up in your business, as well as how you show up in your life, how you show up in your relationships, how you show up as a leader, how you show up as a mother, how you show up as a community member.
Absolutely.
We get to invest in how we feel, and we get to have it all while feeling spectacular. So thank you so much, Wanda. Any last thoughts before we pop off to the next?
Thank you. And, just to mention the retreat was phenomenal for me. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely the community, just being out in nature and just everything, the clean eating, just knowing that you can really eat well and it tastes good.
Yes.
It was just phenomenal. And I'm just thankful.
Mm-hmm. I'm thankful for you. And I'm so grateful that you made that big, bold choice to say yes and invest in yourself. And you've continued to. And I'm just so grateful to continue to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Hi, Chris.
Well, hello. How are you?
Thank you for popping on. So for those of you that are like, wait a minute, there's a male in the space. So he's not in my year-long women's program. He hasn't come into my women's retreats. But I do have VIP clients that are male, and there's a few of them, and we meet one-on-one, and he's also had one-on-one access to the team. So first, Chris, would you be open just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Chris Kenney. My own Chris Kenney Coaching, multi-seven-figure brand, teaching coaches, consultants, and service providers how to position, package, and sell high-ticket programs. Been in business since 2008, so great to be here.
And he's very good at what he does. So when you first came into my infrastructure, was like, I think I might need some help. What are you open to sharing regarding what wasn't working?
All right. Well, I mean, for me, it was, it started back in November. I suddenly had weakness in my body, unexplainable. Just my legs went weak, and then I lost my appetite. So I had that happen. So it was weakness, then it was loss of appetite, then it was bloating, then it was back pain. And these are all things that just kept adding on and adding on. And then dizziness that was so bad I couldn't even watch TV, because if I watched television, it was screwing up my equilibrium, even worse. Oh yeah, and then the hand tremors started. So my hands were shaking. So I was pretty freaked out and took multiple trips to the doctor, and they kept telling me you're fine. They were running, the BMP, the basic metabolic panel, and that was fine. I had a trip to the emergency room. They also told me I was fine. Then I had a CT scan. I had a chest X-ray. I had, what else? I had a pelvic CT. I had an abdominal CT. I basically have been scanned from head to toe, and all the doctors were telling me, hey, nothing's wrong. You're fine. But meanwhile, my hands are trembling and I don't have any appetite. So long story cut short, my partner, Julie, was doing some work or had some connection with you in some way. And I figured, I always know, and I believe that the universe always brings us what we need. I didn't know anything about you at the time, but you showed up in my experience. So I really trusted that, and hopped on the phone with you, shared with you all my symptoms. And you said immediately, without pause, I'm going to test you for mold. And I thought, you're going to test me for mold? Does mold happen in people's bodies? Like, what's going on? You tested me for mold, and I had 3 different types of mold growing in my body. And that was what was causing all my symptoms. So, the other part of this was like the intense amount of anxiety that I was under, because I thought for several months that I had some form of cancer, because all of those symptoms from my world were cancer symptoms. So I was like, my God, what is it? So I was freaking out. I wasn't sleeping well. My body was always constantly pumping cortisol. I was in fight or flight for several months. It was a mess. The unknown was incredibly scary for me. Fast forward, I had a couple of meetings with you. I had a meeting with Katie. And then what we ended up doing is Katie came up with you came up with a supplement protocol, went on the supplements. And now here I am. Apparently it takes 3 months to a year to get rid of a mold infection. So the body weakness is gone. The dizziness is gone. The back pain is gone. Several of the items are gone. I still have a bit of a hand tremor. But the bottom line is I still don't have my appetite back, but my hunger is sporadic. But the bottom line is I feel really good. My energy's back. My conviction around the future is back. I know that what's wrong with me is being treated. And I just feel a lot of gratitude, my God, because that was a long time to not know what the heck was going on with me physically. Yeah. And it was complete havoc on my relationship, complete havoc on my life, complete havoc on my business, complete havoc on myself. So, and it was interesting because I literally had 1 10-minute conversation with you, and you immediately said, I'm going to test you for mold. And you knew what was wrong with me in one conversation, and the whole traditional medical system was putting scopes down my throat and running CTs, filling me up with radiation to figure out the problem when there really was nothing going on.
There's so much here that I'm hearing. I mean, first, to go through that fear of I heard you say this, the unknown was scary, and the anxiety that was ensuing, and the ways in which it would impact your business, likely underneath the surface. No one would have known, is my guess, out in the world that you were really struggling. You were still running a successful multiple 7-figure business, and yet underneath the surface, you were going to the ER, getting all these scopes, all these tests, seeing all these professionals, all these specialists, even alternative medicine providers, and no one could give you any answers. I remember one point you said, a doctor said to you, Chris, the healthcare system is good at catching big things, but little things, we don't.
Yeah, I had a series of little things. I had my gut bacteria was off. My cortisol was really high because of the stress, and then of course I had the mold going on. Yeah. So, but they weren't running the right tests. They kept doing the same thing over and over again. They just seem to have a really standard protocol they go through. It's not very tailored to you as an individual or for me as an individual. And they keep telling you you're fine, but you feel like shit.
Right.
So, I mean, it was really clear I wasn't fine. I mean, one of the more disturbing things was the stuff with my hands. And it's like, you're literally holding your hand up to your doctor and it's trembling like this. And she says, oh, you're fine. It's stress.
I don't feel fine. And it's amazing
That's
how
not
often I
fine.
hear this.
This
People
is not
come to me and
fine.
they're like, I've tried everything and they tell me I'm fine, but I don't feel fine. And
How come my 74-year-old father-in-law can outwalk me right now? That's not fine. It's not fine. I was a fit guy. I wasn't a guy that was out of shape. I'd walk around the mall for 15 minutes and I'd have to take a seat because of that. My body was being overcome by mold, and mold, releases mycotoxins. And so all this toxic shit is in my bloodstream, and nobody's giving me a supplement protocol to get rid of it. And I did. I even had another functional medicine person before you that had me on a whole different supplement protocol that honestly never would have done a damn thing. I would still probably be getting worse and wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was, it was hard.
And I want to say to those that are listening, mold can live in you. You can live in mold, and somebody could have mold in their body and it doesn't have the same influence. So it was a compounding thing of, okay, there's some adrenal stuff, there's some gut dysbiosis, there's some inflammation, and put all of that together, add some stress in his specific scenario. The good news is the weakness is gone. The hunger and appetite are getting better. The bloating is gone. The anxiety is gone. The pain is gone. The tremor we're working on. The cortisol is getting better. The dizziness is gone. The back pain is gone. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's to me, it's all the mold. That was all. Mold can cause every single one of those symptoms, and and so I know I'm on the right track. I'm on the strictest kind of protocol around food and drink that I think I've ever been on. I also noticed I was allergic to gluten. I had no idea, but I had a gluten allergy, and I was eating gluten all the time. Mm-hmm. So now it's no gluten, no caffeine, and no alcohol, which is a completely different lifestyle for me. But it's, I feel I'm definitely on the up and up, and I feel energetic and I feel positive. And we just ran a company launch and sold a few $100,000. So we're, the business is back, and I feel back, and I'm talking about my future, and I'm buying a house. I'm not thinking I'm going to be dead in a year because I've got some crazy illness
right.
that's taking me over.
To be for an entire year scared of the unknown and afraid that you had cancer and you were dying. Now there's hope again. And how cool, what I'm hearing is when you have hope and there's recovery from this and you're no longer spinning in the unknown, now you can go back into your business and the business shows up.
Back in, I'm back in. I'm doing what I want to do. I don't know. I love my company. I can't complain. I've downsized it significantly, but I did it intentionally because I wanted to keep space and I wanted to keep freedom. Freedom and love are my two core values. Mm-hmm. So I won't run a business that takes away my freedom or keeps me away from love. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think the hardest thing was not feeling like, oh my gosh, I could go buy a house, or just thinking I was going to leave the planet. I'm in, those of you that know me, some of you do, I see some familiar faces. I'm in the middle of a divorce. And if I died, I was worried that my legacy would go where I wanted it to go. So I had like all of this stress because, none of that stuff was in order. Where my retirement funds are going to go, where my house proceeds are going to go, or all, I have stuff and none of that was taken care of. So it was like really freaking me out. And now it's back to, and now it's it's bigger though. It's more, I feel so incredible. So rejuvenated is what I can say. Cause I feel like I'm on the other side of it. I'm still in it a drop, but it's nothing like it was. I'm not freaked out about my situation. I know I'm on the right track.
And you can go back to those core values of freedom and love and focus on your legacy with a tailored, personalized approach. And I do want to say out loud, when he mentioned Julie, his wife, partner, she's a phenomenal copywriter. So I had hired Julie to help me in copywriting. And as she was interviewing women in my space, getting those testimonial interviews, it was Julie that said, do you ever work with men? Because I think Chris needs you. And so for those of you that are interested, Copy Crimes, good at what they do. Chris Kenney coaching, good at what he does. And so Chris, I also, while you're here, You, I feel like, are really phenomenal at helping people get out of their own way.
Yeah.
To really make that leap of faith and choose themselves. And choose, when I look at the workbook for today, this last piece is to go from the current to choose a leap of faith into what we actually desire. I'm curious, while I have you here, if you would be open to just sharing any words of wisdom for the women that are going, okay, there's a lot that I've heard in the midst of this workshop. I relate to a lot of what I'm hearing, and I do desire things to feel a lot different. And if they're afraid, if they are overthinking and allowing the delay to stuck in the eddy, if they are afraid of investment, if they are using the excuse of I don't have the time, all the things that show up for us when we are thinking from the perspective of where we are versus thinking from the perspective of where we want to be. I'm curious if you'd be open to sharing any words of wisdom to that individual who's listening.
So one of the things that I think is absolutely true is the bridge between, I want everybody to write this down. The bridge between the physical and the spiritual is faith. The bridge between the physical and the spiritual is faith. The physical is what you have. The spiritual is the thing that you want, right? The bridge that will always take you there is faith. I always tell people faith is short for allowing in the how, for allowing in the how. That's what faith really is. And why is faith required? Well, being willing to leap in faith. Here's what's going on for some of you. I promise you, you're trying to create something that you haven't created before. And you're looking inside of the mind for the answer, right? You're looking in your head, right? The reason faith is required is because if you haven't created like total vitality in your life, you don't have a frame of reference in your mind for total vitality. And you're looking for it in your mind. It's not there because you haven't created it yet. So the only way you create that absolute vitality, that thing that you want that you haven't created yet, that's why we have to move in faith, because the data for how to create it is not in your head. Because if it was, you would have created it already. Does everybody get that? So to expect to find the how in your brain is absolute insanity. You'll never find it there. It doesn't reside there. The answer lies in your intuition. The answer lies in how this move or investment or decision, how does it feel in your body? That's where the answer lies. Every single one of you, I promise you, you already know in your gut if this is right for you or not. You already know. And if your intuition is screaming yes, but then your logical mind is screaming no, the reason the logical mind screams no is because there's ego involved. Ego is your current sense of self, right? So you got to remember this. Write this down. Transformation is a threat to the ego. Transformation is a threat to the ego. Why? Because it challenges your current sense of self. Your ego will view that as a death. So your body's going, fuck yes, I need this. I want this. I deserve this. I have to have this. And your head's going, no, what if you're wrong? It's too expensive, or whatever the story is that's triggered in your head. The story in the head is ego driven, and it's ego's job to protect itself. So that's why faith is required. And don't decide, as Maraya just said, look, the biggest transformations in my life and in my business have always come from making decisions not based on where I am, but from based on where I want to be, right? If you make this decision based on where you are, you're going to stay where you are. If you make this decision based on where you want to be, you're going to get to where you want to be. But you're never, ever, ever going to get there without faith. And I'll tell you, listen, God, spirit, the universe, whatever you believe, always, always, always brings you what you need. And I'm going to say one more thing about this. I'm going to lean on a universal law that those of you who have worked with me, you've heard me teach it a million times. Law of polarity. Hear what I'm about to say. Stay with me for 2 more minutes.
Yep.
Law of polarity. Everything in the universe has an opposite and it exists at the same time. Write that down. Everything in the universe has an opposite and exists at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have left without also having right. You can't have in without also having out. You can't have up without also having down. Nothing is right if you don't have left to compare it to. Does everybody get that? That you can't, it's literally impossible to have one without the other. So if everything in the universe has an opposite and exists at the same time, and you have a problem in your life, if a problem exists, what else exists? Solution. It means the solution's here. It has to be here. And it's the freaking law. Whether you choose to believe the law or not, the cool thing about the law is law doesn't give a shit if you believe in it. The law just is, right? Every problem on the planet brings with it the solution.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a problem without also having a solution. It is an impossibility. Now listen, the last thing to say about this, write this down. You know why people have problems? They have problems because they're in resistance to the solution. The solution's present and you're not jumping in, that's on you. But don't be a victim and don't feel like all this shit is happening to you. It is being created. You are the creator and you are in control of whether this shit changes or not. And you have that opportunity. And you created Maraya, just like you created me saying this. We all created this experience. It's divine in nature.
And the beauty of what you're saying, Chris, is I have been talking about this over the last couple of days.
I'm glad. That's because you're pretty smart. That's why I like you.
And for those of you that have the workbook, this open box, my intention was for you to draw a rainbow, a bridge from current to desire, from physical to spiritual, and write faith in the middle. Write faith in that box. What I'm hearing Chris say is that transformation is threat to the ego. And if we are trying to create change and we haven't, we're basing it on the data that we currently have. And that data is based on the current scenario. So the frame of reference can't be our thinking.
No, it's not there.
Yeah.
It's not there. So that's it. Stop resisting the solution. I know that's a really bold and direct way to say it. You all created this experience. You all created being here. There's something in this for you. And if there wasn't, you wouldn't have been here. And you're all supposed to be here, because if you weren't supposed to be here, you wouldn't be here.
So Chris, I am grateful that you said yes to receiving from me. And then I ended up receiving from you as well. And I've hired both Chris and Julie over the last month or so, something like that. They are brilliant at what they do. And I am forever grateful that you continued to say, I am not staying in my current reality, even if all of the specialists and all of the tests are telling me that everything is normal. I know that I do not feel normal, and I'm going to continue to fight and search for this until someone can give me a different answer.
My doctor literally said, we can't just keep running tests. Really? My God. Anyway, so I'm so glad to be on the right track. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your knowledge. I'm grateful for your spirit. Grateful for how you serve, how you've served me, how you've served Julie, and how you're serving everybody in this room, I'm sure. So I just want to say, I wish everybody well. Here if you have any questions, anytime. So good to see everybody.
Yep.
And yeah, the essential tremor, it's really funny. You know what I created the other day was I was like, damn it, I wish my hands would never shake. Like I can hold my hand out like this and it's not really shaking, but if I roll it like this, it shakes a little bit. But it's minor. So I created this guy who was running my estate sale. I was like, can you write down the items? And this guy started writing, and it looked like, this guy had a tremor like from HE double hockey sticks. I was like, that's a tremor. This is really minor. That guy right there, he's got a tremor. So,
right.
Anyway.
So now you get to apply some different meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
And to everyone today that has been bold enough to come on and share your story, thank you. right? This is not pre-rehearsed. I did not say what questions we were going to ask in advance. You simply said yes to yourself. And we hopped on a call and we co-created the right personalized plan for you based on your specific scenario. And like I've said, for those of you that have not yet filled out the application, it is time. I have a lot of options, anywhere from $1,000 up to $10,000 a month. Okay. We get to craft something and co-create it specifically for your scenario. You've seen a lot of variety in testimonials simply from today. And something that I haven't said out loud yet, but I'm excited to say is for anyone that fills out the application between now and Wednesday, we've already had a lot of applications going, oh, I've got to celebrate. Cindy, congratulations. Lauren, congratulations. And then also to Whitney and Wanda and Krista for renewing for their third renewal. I wanted to say that out loud. So anyone who applies between now and Wednesday, if we co-create something and you say yes, I'm offering up a virtual VIP day. That's usually a $3,000 value. And that's simply my gift to you. It's fun when I'm in the midst of these workshops to offer something that's like, I see you when you're willing and able to take that leap of faith into the spiritual realm, into your place of desire, and to be able to swiftly say, I'm saying yes to me. Okay. So what that looks like is you just simply fill out the application. I'll take a peek at it. We'll hop on a call and we will co-create something that's specific for you. I'm grateful for who you are in the world and how you serve. And I know that the emotional labor that must have been playing out for that year, feeling afraid of the unknown and not knowing if you would survive, I'm grateful that has now been put to rest and you can be back and engaged in serving all the people that receive from you. All right. Thanks to everyone. And voila.